We're back with another episode of Food Writers Talking About Food Writing. Jaya Saxena is here. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I love your work, and we're going to cover it. If you're watching on YouTube, listen, we're here. We're in the studio. And if you're on the podcast, there's a link in the show notes to check it out on YouTube. We've been doing some fun stuff on YouTube. This is the only show we really go in its entirety on YouTube. So
amazing.
So when we start these conversations, I always wanna ask you, a meal. You start. I usually start, but I'll have you start. What's a meal that you recently had that just really excited you?
Ooh, I did last week go to Bar Kabawa. There are two new Momofuku joints. There's Kabawa, which is the set menu, tasting menu place, and then the bar next door, which I think is so much fun and so great. And just getting some of these really amazing patties there and really fantastic drinks. They have this huge rum menu and they're making these great daiquiris. I had maybe the best pina colada I've ever had there, and I'm not even normally a pina colada drinker. And so that was just, it hit everything. It hit the food, the drinks, the atmosphere, the hospitality. I feel like sometimes it feels rare to get that whole package, and it really felt like the whole package.
Amazing. We had Paul on the show, Carmichael, the chef.
Yes.
Great conversation. It was like an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
Check that in the feed. His story is amazing.
Yeah.
He, working in Puerto Rico, working in New York, working in Australia.
Yeah, he's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere. And the Kabawa response appears to be very positive.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's, I think in general we're seeing, there are more restaurants taking Caribbean flavors and putting them in more of a fine dining space or in more of an experimental space. And I think that's so great and so wonderful to see different versions of it. But I think that this one is it's such a great version of it.
Right. Well, my pick is I was in Portland, Oregon last weekend, and I got to go to Longbond, which is, it won the Big Beard Award last year, which I didn't know until after my meal. It won the Outstanding Restaurant Award, which is the biggest one. The chef is Earl Nimsum, and he is going to be on the show. We're scheduling an interview soon. He's doing this tasting menu, and each couple months he switches up the format. The restaurant is Thai, and he's got several Thai restaurants in Portland, Oregon. But this restaurant is his real set piece, and he is doing this tasting menu focused around seafood. And it's really, really exciting. It was a pescatarian menu for everyone. Starts with small bites. He was doing a Hokkaido scallop with coconut cream Thai herbs in a rice cup. It went on to this amazing coconut broth. And you've had coconut broth a lot. And it's typically good. This was the best. This is the highest level of coconut broth I've ever had. I've been fortunate to go to Thailand and tried some things with cordyceps was in it, and I was thinking Last of Us, which I don't know if you watched that show.
Yes.
So there's they're serving cordyceps. I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, you're trying not to picture the show.
Picture the show, but it works well. He moves on to some beautiful salads, and then does a family style 3 or 4 plates at the end, mussels in a great curry with jackfruit. This amazing halibut, perfectly done with baby corn and mushrooms. And at the end, Maya Erickson is the pastry chef. She's been there for 8 or 9 years. Maya was a taste writer. She was a cook in residence and wrote some terrific pieces for Taste in 2017 and 18. So I got to meet Maya. So shouts to Maya Erickson. Had a great time in Portland. We're going to have an episode up in about a month where we really talk about Portland, Oregon. So have you been to Portland or something?
Not in years.
Yeah.
I was there a long time ago for a friend's wedding.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times, but definitely it's been too long. But I mean, I remember that, the food there was just so good.
It's so good.
And yeah, now I'm okay, maybe I need to put that on the book.
I think you should. It's great. And it's really local. A lot of cities in America have been taken over by corporations and just urban sprawl with the usual suspects. And they fight that as a community. And you walk around neighborhoods and you see no Peloton stores and shit like that. Anyways, the big episode coming up soon. Check that out. But Jaya, let's talk about food writing. How about that?
Yes, let's go.
When we were, exchanging emails about the lineup, we're always talking about what's big in the ether right now. There was no denying our top pick. The story that really made the week was from Mackenzie Chung Fagan out of the San Francisco Chronicle. The article is, Thomas Keller asked me to leave the French laundry. It turned out into my most extraordinary night as a critic.
I love this piece.
we have a lot to talk about here, and I'm going to summarize it briefly. The link is in the show notes to all of these articles, and you can read them, and we're trying not to spoil the show here. But, Mackenzie's been the critic at the San Francisco Chronicle for over a year. We had her on about a month ago talking about the debut of the Top 100 Restaurants list, and she did such a terrific job with her colleagues there. Loved the scope of restaurants and the work they put into that. And, the French Laundry hasn't been reviewed in a while for the San Francisco Chronicle, but part of her job as critic is just to pop into restaurants and know the scene. So when she arrived at the French Laundry, she had no intention of reviewing it. But with that, she had kind of an extraordinary experience. She's in the dining room. There's, I think, a few canapes have been passed, and all of a sudden she has a tap on the shoulder, and somebody on staff is like, can you join me in the garden? And she's like, what? And as she writes very beautifully, she is approached by the chef Thomas Keller, and Thomas Keller asks her point blank, what are your intentions? Which is an interesting question. Mackenzie's very honest. I think she had made the reservation under an alias, as you always do as critic, but she then admitted that who she was. And Keller has a kind of a bizarre response. And I would say, I'll quote, Keller does not know what I want from him. He says, or what am I doing at his restaurant? I'm not here to write a review. I tell him honestly. So first, his response is he asked her to leave.
Yeah, which is after just bizarre behavior. Asked her to leave, and then decides to cook for her.
Yeah.
An hour and a half after the reservation was set for.
Yeah, I mean, the server informs the group that Chef Keller would like to cook for us, and sommelier has been asked to select wine. So it goes from you need to leave to I'm going to cook for you. And I'm not going to spoil the ending because you need to really get to the ending about the bill. And
yes.
Throughout the piece, Mackenzie talks about her family's history of operating restaurants in San Francisco and her really, her real love and it's like family to her, the restaurant industry, and how she had been at the French Laundry for a very important moment in her life. And I just thought that when the bill arrived, there was as a critic, you have to pay for your meals. And it was a bit of a power play with, she couldn't accept a free meal because then Keller would have that on her. I texted Mackenzie after I wrote it. I was like, I need to take a fucking shower.
Yeah.
After this. You kick it off. What did you think about this piece and really what it says about this dynamic between chefs and critics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, it's really interesting because I ultimately feel like, often people think that critics and the subjects they write about are so different, but you're ultimately doing the same thing. Anytime you are creating something, you put it into the world and then you have no control over it anymore, right? You are waiting for other people to receive it and they are allowed to have whatever opinions they want. And sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't. And that's true of a restaurant. That's true of a painting. That's true of an article. And so I think it's always really fascinating when chefs are sort of like, oh, you don't know what it's like to create, because you do, but you're just creating something different. I also think Thomas Keller, right, because he's coming to her and saying that, French Laundry had less than stellar reviews at some other publications, at the Chronicle and elsewhere in recent years. So he was really concerned, and he, passed it off as concern for his staff, saying that, a negative review could affect them. I don't know how much I believe. It's still the French Laundry. I'm pretty sure if you have that on your resume, trying to be a line cook somewhere else, you're going to be fine.
It's a master manipulation move. I
yeah,
it's
he's
absolutely trying to. I try to use this word very, very, very lightly, but there's some gaslighting happening here.
Oh, completely.
It's this manipulation of the facts that his staff would be hurt by these reviews, and he's had a tough time. Melissa Clark wrote about Per Se and the French Laundry. I will say, if you go back to the episode I talked to Melissa the week it dropped, she had lots of great things to say about the French Laundry.
Yeah,
for sure,
absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where because Keller, I think, echoes this thing that you hear from a lot of chefs and sort of a lot of artists and people whose work is criticized, that it is the critic's job to support the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
That basically, why are you tearing us down? Your job should be to support us. And I think he's right, but I think he is not right for the reasons that he thinks he is. Because I do think it is the critic's job to support the restaurant industry and restaurants as a whole, but not your specific restaurant.
No.
You are talking about this to a standard of, well, what should a restaurant be? You are talking about, you're talking from a point of, I respect the art form of a restaurant, of what a chef does. And that does not mean any one individual chef or restaurant. Yeah. And I also think that, right, one, Mackenzie wasn't even there to review the restaurant. No. But even if she were, that a restaurant like French Laundry where, it's like $400 a meal, and that's not including wine, that's not including tip. That's also not including a restaurant of that caliber where people might fly to go there, or travel great distances and stay in a hotel. So if you were going to be spending that much money somewhere, it is of the utmost importance that somebody is going there and telling people, is this going to be worth it to you to spend that amount of money?
Yeah, and I was talking to Besha Rodell recently. We're going to have the episode up in a couple weeks, and Besha, a critic of the LA Weekly and Creative Loafing, and we were talking about criticism. And I mean, Jai, I'd love to get your take on this. I feel like it's like a public service for the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And I think publishers like the New York Times, which has two, I would say like temporary critics who are trying out for the job. We don't know what the future is there. Like on the publishing side, we need more critics.
Yes.
It helps the industry. And I feel like there should be some responsibility from the publishing side to fund it. Now, we know monetization of criticism is difficult. And I know at Eater, there were two critics and now there are none.
Yeah.
And so in our conversation with Besha, I was like, it would be great if Vox could have another critic. But like, I don't know the intimacies of the P&L at Vox. So I can't judge that. But like, as a public service for the restaurant community, let's like figure out how these can be monetized.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really important. I think that, as you said, it makes the industry better.
Yeah.
I think it makes it better for everyone to have a more informed audience.
Yep.
I think due to the lack of criticism, that vacuum has really been filled, by a lot of influencers, some of who are very good in sort of continuing journalistic work, but you also have a lot of people who are not holding themselves to the same ethical standards. Yeah. And so it becomes really difficult. And I mean, the problem of ethics, that exists in newspapers too, that exists, in the history of criticism the whole time. But right, that thing, if you're watching a video and someone is saying that this restaurant is so good while they're showing you all like the beautiful
cheese
pulls and all the wonderful shots of things, and you're like, well, is their meal being comped? Are they
getting paid?
Are they getting paid for this? Is there some sort of deal behind the scenes here? Because good criticism is really about that trust, that you trust someone's taste, that you trust that someone knows their history and knows what they're talking about. And I think that's so valuable in sort of whatever form you get it in.
Yeah.
And I wish there were more of it.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. I think that it's a topic that we'll continue to cover here. And I just think that just well done, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
What a piece.
I actually also just will say the thing that really struck me in that, and aside from Mackenzie's amazing writing, is I wanted to know what Keller's plan was.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's fine if you're mad that a critic is in your restaurant. What makes you think that this would make it any better?
Yeah, that Mackenzie would not write about this as a journalist.
Or just or tell people about it or whatever. It's like, truly, how did you think this would help?
Yeah, I think that maybe the comms team and Keller were not on the same page that
absolutely not.
That evening. Next piece is actually a piece of criticism dropped this week. The 22 best pizza places in New York right now.
Yes.
A terrific package written by the team of the New York Times. Priya Krishna, Nikita Richardson, Korsha Wilson, and Luke Fortney. And this is an update of a list that was published about, I would say 6 months ago. I think in October they published it, which I love to see the Times, doubling down on these like city roundups and going and traveling through New York and doing it by category. I think it's like a really nice investment. And it goes into what we're saying. It's nice to have funded criticism. I'll read from the intro. Pizza is the cultural and emotional bedrock of a city that can't even coalesce around a single baseball team. I'll even say basketball team. Here, finding a decent slice is as easy as jaywalking. But finding a great slice, one that's worth eating down to the last bite of crust, is much harder. The team at the New York Times visited 79 of the city's most popular and beloved pizzerias and landed on the 22 best. They assessed many different styles: Sicilian, Neapolitan, New York, and then some categorized a bowl, classified, I guess is the word, versions of pizza. And I'll just go over a couple highlights. There's series in Manhattan, Little Italy. They write about the crust that looks like bread. It's savory. It's well aerated, the color of einkorn boule. It's fitting. The recipe is based on a baguette dough. This is the pizza that has been given a lot of press. I think it got a really big Portnoy score, and it's been beloved. And also on the list is, of course, Chrissy's in Greenpoint, and they write every few years a great pizzaiolo appears out of thin air, and Chris Hansel is that. I had him on the show recently. And I'll just close and say I was personally happy to see that FNF, Joe's in the Village, and L&B Spumoni stayed on the list.
Mm-hmm.
The big but are the folks who didn't make the list, including Lucali, Pauly G's, and Scars.
I was really surprised about Scars, especially because I have pizza drama is so good because it feels so lovely to have such a petty opinion. Because, right, it is believing one pizza place deserves to be on a list and another pizza place doesn't deserve to be on a list is totally inconsequential to the grand scheme of life. But it feels so wonderful to like read a list and see something that you're like, I think you got that wrong.
Yeah.
And I am going to hold that in my heart forever.
Yeah, and pizza is so polarizing too.
It's so polarizing.
Like Neapolitan is all about the dough and like the rise. You've got, of course, gas, bread oven pizzas that are all about that marriage of cheese sauce and very thin crust, but also really well fermented and matured flavor in dough.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was right, because I had a couple on there. I mean, I was really shocked about Scars.
Yeah.
I was really happy to see one of my local places, Andrew Bellucci's, on there. I was also happy to see Manos in Ridgewood. I went there. I didn't even know that they were sort of on the pizza radar. I just ran around the corner from a bar that I was at to grab a slice and loved it. I thought they were great. But yeah, I had been to Scars recently and I was just like, I love this pizza. And it, I also think it's something where a lot of these places, like, I hope, but I think Scars is going to be fine. I think that people know that they do good stuff, regardless of one list. But yeah, seeing Scars not on there and then seeing some other choices, I was a little like, ooh, that's not me.
It's not me. It's not me either. Scars is definitely in my top 5. And I think they're trying to like spread out the geography and like, going to Queens is important, and Bellucci being on there is really cool.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, it's just great to see them putting 4 reporters on this work and actually putting in the time. I mean, 79 visits, that's no joke.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I saw, I think I saw Luke posting about it of just like, oh my God. And I had a doctor's appointment coming up, like who, this is a difficult task, but I feel like, no, it's just really cool that they were all able to, get their resources together on this.
It's really, really fun. And I love when the Times takes these big swings. I think they clearly have a strategy where they put it into a newsletter and like the morning newsletter. And that, it really is a moment in not just the food desk, but like throughout the New York Times when they put these lists out there. I wanna get maybe Luke or Nikita on the show because I want to talk a little bit more about this from the source.
Oh yeah,
like how did they narrow it down? I mean, was it on? Are we talking about like there's like a skunk works room in the Times with like a whiteboard? Uh,
Especially like, I'm assuming, right, tasting these things at all these different times and trying to figure out like what is the standard you're looking for here. I would love like the numbers on it.
Yeah. Well, to switch topics and gears, I think a big reason I wanted to have you on, not just to talk about food and pizza takes, is your writing and an incredible piece that you wrote last year made it to the James Beard Foundation's Media Awards. You're nominated. The article is called "The Food That Makes You Gay," and it is. Wow. I read it twice and I have a lot to unpack. There's a lot of topics here in the best way possible.
It's so sprawling.
It's sprawling.
And I really thank my editors for allowing me to just sort of come with them of being like, I have a vague idea that a bunch of things are connected. Please just let me run with it. And they were like, go for it.
This is Food Writers talking about food writing. Who are your editors? Let's name them.
Oh my God. Well, my main editor, Erin DeJesus, she's fantastic.
Love Erin.
Monica Burton also worked with me on that. She's now at the New York Times, but she is really, really great. And Leslie Suter as well.
Yeah.
And then my coworkers also, Amy McCarthy and Bettina McAlintal, like they help me so much. Like we're always bouncing ideas off each other or just like venting to each other about our writing frustrations. And so there's such a great support.
You have such a great team. I can't speak highly enough about the team at Eater National, whatever you want to call it. It's, what Rebecca Marks and her team is doing.
Yes.
The team is doing the cultural coverage and it's amazing.
Yeah.
You're doing
Thank
incredible
you.
work. Well, I want to read from you. This comes later on in the piece, but I think it's an important moment. I want you to tell us a little about it. Quote, identity is a squishy concept, material and immaterial at the same time, existing both in our minds and in our actions. To be queer has to do with who you do and do not have sex with, but also how you approach those interactions, what it feels like, and how you sit in your own body. So these associations with food, a thing we all must consume and often be seen consuming, become a way to externalize something intangible. So this comes up in the piece later on, but I think it's a big, nutgraffer, so to speak, of the piece. What were you trying to unpack with this piece?
Yeah, basically, so it all basically started around thinking of these little food associations that we have. I think one of the classic ones is if someone's eating, a banana or a corn dog or this other phallic object, that often, especially if it's a man doing it, there'll be this joke that like, haha, you look gay. All those scares around like, oh, if you eat too much soy.
Yeah, that was a big part.
Your body is going to change. It's going to give you feminizing hormones. And then realizing like, well, wait a minute. There are plenty of people who take hormones on purpose. In fact, with the express intent of changing their bodies, changing their sex. So is there a connection here? What do these things have to do with each other? And realizing that, sort of throughout history, there have been all of these associations of people both negatively and positively thinking that the food you eat is going to change your sex, change your body. And some of this is people doing it with the full intention of that's what they wanted to do. And some of it is people saying, Spanish colonizers saying, don't eat the food of the New World because you'll stop growing your manly Spanish beard. And, so there are just all these different things connected. And I just did my best to try to show the through lines with all this and really this sense of queerness, of gender, of sexuality, and identity and food, is connected in our minds and has been connected for a really long time.
And food is so immediate. And I think
It's
that's
so
from
immediate.
that quote and that I read, it's something that is so much more immediate than sexuality.
Yeah.
Right? And so that expression of eating food clearly it's easier for someone to make a remark.
Yes. And I think that, before in different scientific times, food as medicine, food as something that does have it has an effect on your body, right? If you eat something you're allergic to, you're going to get a rash. If you, only eat ice cream versus if you only eat celery, your body is probably going to look different, in those two outcomes. So it does have an effect on your body. So why couldn't it have an effect in these other ways.
You write about the online chatter and the television chatter around Joe Biden eating ice cream. And that was like a moment during the campaign when places like Fox News and others you cite in the piece were really using that against him and really implying anything, crazy things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great example of how this can be used for political gain in some ways, too.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously we're in such like a horrible moment when it comes to queer and trans people in the US right now. Like, I think literally the morning that we're recording this, there's a bill in the Senate that might get rid of trans affirming care for all trans people under Medicaid. It's not good out there. And the right wing has really taken on these sort of, gender wars and these really limited gender ideas and run with it. Because I think Jesse Waters on Fox News was the one who was like, a man should never eat ice cream. A man should never eat soup. I think right-wing grifter Andrew Tate was like, if you're a man and you're into food at all, that's too feminine. That's like gay. And I was just like, where the idea that being into enjoying food, enjoying eating makes you less of a man. Just absurd things are being said.
Wild takes. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, seriously.
This is a pro food show, and
yes,
just unbelievable shit coming out of his
yeah, no, it's really bonkers.
Explain courtesy stigma.
Yeah. So the idea of courtesy stigma comes up in this piece, and it's really, another way to think of it is stigma by association. That, maybe you are not of a stigmatized identity, but if you are friends with that person, if you are interacting with that person, then people are looking at you a little bit suspect. And, you think about it to like middle school bullying or something, where if there was a kid that was getting bullied and if you were nice to them and you were friends with them, then people start bullying you too because of that association. And so it comes up a lot with, I think, queerness and food because, that association of like, oh, well, I don't want to be thought of as gay because society considers that a negative. Yeah. So I won't eat ice cream. I won't eat a banana in public, or I'll cut up the banana first.
Like Wiz Khalifa famously said, extremely incorrectly, extremely bad take and horrible.
Right. The idea that like, oh, I don't want to be seen doing this thing that associates me with a stigmatized group of people because I'm worried that sort of that stigma is going to rub off on me. And so that's really what a lot of the behavior here is people really policing what they eat and what other people eat to say, if I do this, if you do that, this is what people are going to think of you. And aside from that, just being totally silly in terms of like, you're going to deny yourself ice cream because you're worried that somebody is going to get the wrong impression because of how it looks to eat it.
Their loss.
Like, if that's really what it takes to keep you from doing that, then like, fine, I guess, truly your loss. But also, I think it gets into something really so deep about what that fear means. Like, why are you so scared of being seen that way? What's so bad about that?
Yeah. What was the response like when you published it last
I think, you got a lot of people who only read the headline and were very much like, why are you trying to make there's nothing gay about food. Why are you trying to...
Don't you love that? You spent it's like 4,000 words, you spent months reporting it, and then someone just like claps back.
Right. And it's like, okay, you're right in a certain way that there is nothing inherently gay about food. I'm talking about how we've made up all these stories to overcomplicate things and like what that says about us as humans, not what it says about ice cream. Mm-hmm. But so there are a lot of people saying that. But I was actually really heartened that a lot of people really got it and understood it. And I feel like I took a risk. It's a weird piece. It, as it's sprawling. It does connect all these different things together. But I'm proud of it. I think that I was able to successfully connect them. And I think that a lot of people really, got what I was going for.
I think weird can be pejorative or not, I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
I really, really do.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's a long read, right? You have
Yeah.
to be patient with anything that's over 50 words.
Yeah.
And give this some time. I'm linking to it in the show notes. I mean, the fact that you can connect these dots about Wiz Khalifa shading on eating bananas and this soy moment, which we've written about in Taste as well, and we've covered that topic about this association with soy and gender and then just talking about the courtesy stigma, and it's like really important work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Would you want to go expand it out to something wider? I mean, I know we're going to talk about the series that you edit. You're very busy, but would you ever expand it out to a larger work?
I would love to. I would love to keep digging on this subject because I think there's so much to be said. I mean, I think when I was in the bits where I get into the history of this stuff, I just feel like there's more out there that I don't know and that I would love to find out just about, these things where it's like, okay, castrati having a specific diet, thinking that it's going to keep your voice a certain way, that, in certain eras, women and men being given different diets because they think that it's going to enhance, masculine and feminine qualities in them. Like, I think there really is so much of this in a variety of cultures. I want to keep looking into it.
Have you watched Overcompensating yet?
No, I haven't.
With Benny Drama. It's its logline is like a sheltered, closeted gay freshman in college is terrified of of college, and there's a lot of food in it, and there's some funny scenes.
Oh my God, I will have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm just giving that as a straight rec. I watched
Amazing.
last night, and Benny Drama's doing great work there. There's something. There's like a coffee bar scene in episode 3 that I think ties into a lot of the work that you put into.
Yeah.
It's really great. Well, I want to segue and get to a segment I like to call What Would You Pitch 1997 Graydon Carter? The premise is that in 1997, Graydon Carter, former editor-in-chief of Vanity Fair, was assigning stories with budgets. I've been reading and hearing a lot about this. I've read the book and the chatter. 150,000, 450,000. I don't know the actual amounts, but like some writers were getting $500,000 in 97, so that's like maybe $1 million now.
Oh my God.
So like we're talking about a pretty healthy budget. Imagine the world. But anyways, the premise of the question is, what would your pitch to Graydon Carter be?
So I was thinking about this because, I feel like there are a lot of things that I've, either like The Food That Makes You Gay or some other pieces that I'm working on right now where it's just like, wow, if I had unlimited time and I could, didn't have to worry about anything else and could travel for this and stuff, I would just want to, dig in even deeper. But I think the one that I am now thinking of that would allow me to travel, would allow me to do some stuff is, I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of countries seem to have quote unquote American restaurants.
Yes.
And I am
sure.
Yeah, and I am really fascinated by what that means depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Because I do think that so much of American food is obviously, this hodgepodge of other cultures coming to America and making their food.
Mm-hmm.
And then having that exported back out to other places so that you can go to Spain and they're advertising real American brunch. Or like,
what would that be?
I'm saying it's like they're like, oh my God, an American like a full American. It's like pancakes and scrambled eggs and American style bacon and all these things. Or like I remember when I was in Italy in college that there was like an American place in Florence that we went to that was like wings, but then also chips and salsa. But the salsa was basically barbecue sauce with chopped up onions in it because they didn't really know how to do Mexican salsa by way of America into Italy. And I think, everywhere I go, I've started recognizing these types of restaurants more and more. And I think that they are kind of popular. Yeah. And I would love to be able to take a year, take that budget, fly around the world, go to all these American restaurants and try to figure out what's going on.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, you could probably do it for less than Graydon's budget too. I mean, it's a great piece because I'm just curious about trend.
Yeah.
So is like the cronut an American dish?
Right. Like what counts here and what signals America depending on the country that you're in. And because so many of these places, already have American influence in things. I think of obviously because of our military history, in Korea, that you have American cheese and hot dogs as common ingredients in stuff. But right, it's what makes an American restaurant.
I feel like right now it's what makes an American restaurant is a breakfast that has 75 grams of protein.
Yes. Oh my
this,
God.
Protein maxing era we're in,
Oh my God. It's really wild. I feel like I should just plug, if you're protein maxing, you got to add Metamucil to your diet. You got to add something else.
Facts.
It's not going to be good in the long run.
Balance it out. Grab that raw broccoli.
Psyllium husk in there. Please.
Or you double down on the Olipop. Yeah, it's so fascinating, and we're joking, but this protein era is not going away.
No, it's absolutely not. I feel like it's in everything. I got pitched a protein popcorn the other day, and it's sort of just look, I love being able to get a little extra protein sometimes, absolutely, but it does not need to be in everything.
Yeah, I mean, it flashes of Atkins, these diets that focus so much on one element is scary.
Yeah.
I think we were under-proteined in some ways. I think we were thinking about being plant-based and maybe not thinking about those macros.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is the swing back to that. But, do you read Andrea Hernandez on Snackshot at all?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
So well.
Yeah, and it's just the way she tracks these trends, it's amazing work.
Well, I want to talk about Best American Food and Travel Writing. You're the series editor, and you just announced the new 2025 edition is guest edited by Bryant Terry.
Yes.
Which is an amazing choice. What an incredible cookbook author. He has an imprint here at Penguin Random House called Four Color, and he's just an amazing guy. And tell me a little bit about working with Bryant, what we're going to expect from this collection.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, he has impeccable taste. I think he has put together such a great combination of things. And, as he writes in his intro in the anthology, which is going to be out in October, that he was really looking at a lot of different categories of food writing, food and travel writing, and really hitting on all these different conversations going on. So I think it's a really well-rounded anthology. And I think that he does a really good job showing you how all of these different things tie together. Whether we're talking about race and land, whether we're talking about, what it means to travel when there's sort of, when travel can be so destructive to places that you go, whether we're talking about, very personal stories, whether we're talking about, bigger reported things. I think there's just so many really, really great things in there.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. What's it like to get the big spreadsheet with all the articles? Because people submit and you scout. It's got to be a lot of work. We talked about before, but I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one thing that I really try to do as the series editor and compiling sort of the long list for our guest editors to look at. One, it's Best American Food and Travel Writing. So I think that the writing has to be really beautiful and really special. Something can be an incredibly reported piece, but the writing really has to be there as well.
It's a really important distinction. I feel like some series editors have not made that distinction, and the investigation maybe overpowers the actual craft.
Yeah. And I think that can be, writing can mean a lot of different things to you, but I think the way that I've been looking at it is that that's a really important part of it. I also think that I really want to make sure that we are looking at a lot of different sources, which makes it really difficult because you could compile an entire anthology of the New York Times and everything that Condé Nast produced, probably. You have great food and travel writing just in there, but I want to really make sure that it is, from a variety, whether that's legacy papers, whether that's newsletters and independent blogs, web first places. I really think it can come and has come from anywhere. So I'm so excited that we have selections from independent zines. We have selections from Substack. We have selections from a variety of magazines and papers and websites, just to really show what a vibrant scene it is right now.
And it really is.
And I really think it is.
It really is. We're at a great moment. right now.
And I think that sometimes that gets overshadowed by how shitty media can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that this is such a place to champion that, like, there is such great writing happening in so many places.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah, it's going to be, no, I think there's a lot of really great stuff in there.
Cool. Well, Jaya, we'll wrap on This Is Taste. We asked guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid-fire Fast and Furious taste check, media edition. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the first thing you read in the morning, and where do you read it?
Unfortunately, it is probably my Blue Sky feed that I read in bed as soon as my alarm goes off, just setting a terrible tone for the rest of my day.
You know what? I'm dipping into Threads and Blue Sky more these days.
Yeah, I think
I miss stuff.
Yeah, exactly. No,
stuff.
and I think that, I think I certainly become informed.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the news can be really bad now, so I just wake up miserable. But it's not good media habits, but that's what I do.
What do you read on actual paper?
I'm a big book reader. I love reading physical books. I don't have an e-reader or anything. Right now I'm reading Stag Dance by Tori Peters.
Yeah.
I also recently read 2 books that are coming out in June. One, Dining Out by Eric Piepenburg, and What is Queer Food by John Birdsall. Those are both fantastic.
Yeah,
so a lot of good books.
We have a joint interview with those authors coming up in this week.
Oh,
so
wow.
Check the feed this week. So I'm happy you read those advances. And so you're like fiction.
Yes. Oh, I read a lot of fiction.
Love it.
Again, like we're talking about, that reading makes your writing better.
Definitely.
And I think that reading, especially not of what you typically write, makes your writing better.
Yeah.
I try to read a variety of things because I think you can just get those influences from anywhere.
What was your favorite food publication growing up?
Ooh. See, I sort of was wondering about this question because I think I have a slightly different journey to food writing.
Sure.
Like, I was not necessarily the food magazine obsessive.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved magazines in general, but my mom had a lot of entertainment magazines around, things like that. I do think that I subscribe to American Girl magazine, and I feel like there was a lot of food content in there, and especially about what the different historical dolls would be eating, and I really loved reading about that.
That's great. Were you into PBS food programming?
I was thinking about this too, and I kept on mistaking BBC stuff for PBS stuff because it does run on there as well.
Definitely.
And then I was like, was that PBS? No, it wasn't. That was just Two Fat Ladies.
Yeah.
But it was one thing that I remember watching on PBS that wasn't even food television, but again, I think had some great food moments. Do you remember 1900 House?
Oh, I vaguely do. I do.
Oh my God. So, it was this kind of reality show where they put this family that the family had to live like it was the 1900s.
Yeah.
And all the different details. And I remember so vividly that there was one show where the son, younger son, was just miserable because he wasn't eating anything that he liked. And then there was an episode where the producers finally informed them, chip shops existed in the 1900s. You can go get fish and chips if you want, and that will be accurate to the time.
Aww.
And the whole family, but especially this boy, are so excited to eat fish and chips after all of the other food that they're eating.
Yeah.
And it was just such a wonderful food TV moment to see all of them being like, oh my God, finally, fries.
I gotta dig that out. That sounds
it's
beautiful.
so good.
Yeah, I remember that show. That was a great show. Early reality TV.
Yeah.
Kind of done in that cool British way.
Yes.
Let's talk about YouTube, TikTok. Where are you at right now with YouTube and TikTok and Reels and social video?
Yeah, I am not on TikTok because when I briefly had it, I definitely was looking at it far too much.
Yep.
But I definitely, then I'm just on Reels, which I'm like, this is the same
kind
thing.
Of the same, yeah.
So whatever, that's my own fault. But I do think that, every once in a while, I will just get served some video of a recipe that I'm like, well, that looks amazing. I want to make that. And I'll try to save it. And then I'll have to remember to try to find where things are saved to go actually cook it. Yep. But I think that there is, no, as we were talking about before with criticism, I think that there's some places doing it incredibly well. And then I've been doing a little more for eater
Oh, yeah?
venturing into social video.
Tell me, what are you
which
doing?
has been really fun.
Cool.
You know, just basically doing sort of, okay, what's the video version of an article that I wrote? How do I distill this down into 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And so that's been really fun to experiment with, actually. But crucially with someone else behind the camera telling me what
Producing
to do.
it and asking you. So you're doing like a little talking head about the article.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I like that.
And that's been really fun.
Do you have any creators that pop in your head that you like, that you follow?
Oh, God. I do enjoy Justine Dorian. Am I saying her name right?
Yep.
She recently had a whole journey of making her own wedding cake that I thought was fascinating to watch, more in terms of like a slightly morbid, like, why would you even do this? This seems like the most stressful thing in the world. And so, I really enjoyed seeing
We have her cookbook right behind your back.
My God,
right
amazing.
over your shoulder the whole time. Yeah, Justine's terrific. I like her social content a lot and the way she speaks to the camera.
Yeah, no, I
special.
think it's really, she does a really great job with it.
Last question, Jaya. Where do you want to be in 5 years with your media career?
Oh, I mean,
that response is amazing.
Ideally still employed and still with health insurance. Would love that.
Yes.
I think, though, with a piece like The Food That Makes You Gay and then being, nominated for a Beard for it, it really did feel like such a wonderful step forward in my career. Like I love that I was able to do a piece like that. And I think I just hope that I keep getting to push myself.
Yeah.
That in 5 years, I will feel like, that this was, not my best, because I'm going to be even better then. And so just the chance to get to write longer and deeper about a lot of things, I think that's just really important to me.
It's amazing you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I really hope I still do, and that, and that more people have the opportunity to do it. Like, I know media is so hard right now, but that more people are able to just, throw themselves into it, and so that, that I have just like robust competition no matter what.
Yeah. Great point. I think we all get better when there's more competition for eyeballs, even though we complain about it, or I do at least.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's some articles that I'll read it and I am just like, oh, fuck you. I hate you so much right now because I wish I had written it so deeply. But that's like, what a gift to then read that and push yourself to try to do better.
Love this conversation. Food writers talking about food writing. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Definitely comment if you have any other articles you want us to read or just have anything to say. Jaya Saxena, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.